Hello everyone, my name is Sunil. Today I'm going to teach you how to use one of the important module of ADDA, which is bank and cash module. Let us see how to use bank and cash module of ADDA from the setup page to the reports. This is very important because every accountant has to perform bank reconciliation once in every week or once in fortnight or once in month. But this is a must activity for every accountant in any apartment communities or any business take it for as an example. So this video, I am going to show you how to use ADDA bank and cash module, get the complete benefit out of it. Let me share my screen without further delay. Let's get into the ADDA admin dashboard and I'll take you through the each and every functionality of ADDA bank and cash module. Allow me a minute. I'll just share my screen. Hope you're able to see the screen. Now, as soon as you log into ADDA, this is the home page that you are going to land up. On your left-hand panel, you can see all the accounting modules of ADDA. There are 5 important modules that ADDA has for the complete financial management. Income tracker, expense tracker, bank and cash, general ledger, utility tracker. Today, we are going to look at the bank and cash module and how to use it so that you get a complete benefit of this module. Let's go. On your left-hand side panel, fourth module, at the right end of the fourth module, bank and cash, you see a small drop down. Just click on that. As soon as you click on it, you see a couple of sub-modules opened up. The first sub-module of bank and cash, setup, click on it. Now there are two set of setups available under setup. One is you can see the bank and petty cash accounts. For being bank reconciliation, cash and bank reconciliation, two things are important. One is you may have one bank account or multiple bank accounts that needs to be listed down here. Second, if you have a petty cash, you are also handling petty cash, that petty cash ledger also should list it down here. In case, and the respective opening balances will also reflect here if you set up the opening balance. Now, two things that you need to focus. Let's assume you have all the bank's petty cash opening balance, everything set up well and good. If you are seeing here, some of the banks are not showing up or the opening balance setup is not done, then how do you do that? First, how to create a new bank account or petty cash account if it is not created or if it is not listed under this in this tab. For example, account name, your state bank, HDFC bank, petty cash, and then SESCOM, additional deposit account. Now, if you do not see any other bank which needs to be listed down here, but you are not seeing that, how to create those bank accounts or cash account? Very simple. Right below that, there is a note. Just read that. To add or edit the above accounts, please go to so-and-so link. You just have to follow this. Click on this link. It takes you to the general ledger chart of accounts. This is where your chart of account setup happens, including your bank and cash. As soon as you click on that, the page that you land up here, general ledger, chart of accounts, assets. Under that, the first category is setup bank and petty cash details. If you do not see any bank account which is active but not listed down here, then please add it. Select the group, put the account number, GL account number, which needs to be unique, which means now it has ended at 100202. Then it should be 100203 or any unique number which is not present in the list. And then put the account name. Can be cooperative bank or corporation bank or state bank, whichever bank you have, put that and create. After the creation of the account, you should go back to the bank and cash setup. See if that is listed down here. If it is listed down, that means your ledger account created successfully. The next setup is that you need to add opening balance to that account. Let's assume State Bank of India doesn't have an opening balance. Now, how do we do it? Go back to general ledger, same. Go click on the same link which is shown in the below. Click on it. It takes you to the general ledger assets. Now here, you need to use the second submodule of general ledger, which is journal entries. Now create an opening balance for the State Bank of accounts as of 1st April, the financial year 2023, and then I'll choose State Bank of India. Then I'll put the value, whatever is the opening balance or closing balance that is showing as on 31st March in the actual bank statement of your community. Let's assume 10,000 is the bank balance as on 1st April for State Bank of India. I choose State Bank of India and debit the 10,000 and credit. You should choose opening balance account and then give the remarks bank balance as of first as of 1st April 2024 and then submit. As soon as you submit this, you would be able to see the bank balance of State Bank over here. Let's see that. Let's go to the bank and cash setup and see if it is showing up. See, you're able to see the 10,000 now. It is set up on 1st April 2023. Clear? Now the next setup that we have here is that the functionality that we have under the setup is that, let's assume there are you see a lot of a couple of names over here, and next to them there's a checkbox. Why we have it? Very simple. There is a note to it. Just read that. The following checked users will not be able to do bank reconciliation. In a community or where you work as an accountant, you may have a couple of management committee members, admin, staffs, and you feel that all of them as bank and cash module. However, you want to ensure the bank reconciliation activity should only be with you or an accountant. Then please check all the checkboxes for whom you do not want to give bank reconciliation access. Check all of them and save, and uncheck the one who will have access to bank reconciliation and save changes. Then the person whom you have unchecked, only that person will have access to bank reconciliation. Everybody else, though they are listed down here, everybody else will have access as read only. So they will not be able to perform bank reconciliation. Hope this two important aspects under setup is cleared. Now next, let's go to the transfer under bank and cash, the second submodule, transfer. Why this transfer is used? At what situation this transfer feature will be helpful? Every community, if they have two bank accounts or more than two bank accounts, more than one bank account, then there is always this internal transfer takes place. Even if there is no two bank account, if there is a petty cash account and there is one bank account, there is always a possibility that a withdrawal of a cash from the bank happens, right? During that situation, only internal transfer between bank to bank or bank to cash or cash to bank, you need to use this functionality. How to use? Very simple, straightforward. You should choose the from account, from which account the money is flowing and to which account. That's all the concept is. State Bank of India, I'm going to transfer some amount to HDFC Bank, and from account I chose State Bank, and then to account HDFC, fill in the amount, instrument number, which is like in case if you're using check to transfer the fund, put the check number. If you're doing online transfer, put the bank reference number, comment and date transfer. This is one type of internal transfer happens. The second type, as I told you, cash from the bank, you take some amount as a cash for your petty cash use. Same, let's assume you're now going to use HDFC Bank, and around 10,000 rupees you're going to withdraw from HDFC Bank and the amount is going to petty cash account. Then choose from account HDFC to account petty cash, fill in the amount. If you're using check, put the check number. If you're doing typically it's a check that you're going to give it to bank and withdraw the cash. Check number, comment, and then the date transfer. That's all. For these two purposes, you should be using transfer. Do not use journal entry. You should use transfer for internal fund transfer between bank to bank or bank to cash. Hope it's clear. Now let's go to bank and cash account, which is very, very important. This is where if you are an accountant, you will be performing your bank reconciliation activity and ensuring that your book balance is matching with your actual bank statement, right? Now, what do we have here? And on this page, if you see, you can fetch transaction between periods, whichever period for which you want to do reconciliation. You can put the, you can have the transaction period here. Second, you can fetch all transaction. Third, and then you have filters, multiple filters. You can fetch all transaction. You can fetch book transactions. You can fetch like reconcile transaction, non-reconcile transaction, all reverse transactions. And then there's the active bank accounts get listed down here. So you can see you have State Bank, HDFC, Petty Cash, and so on. Let's assume you want to do reconciliation for State Bank account. Then click on this. Click on all transaction for January month. I'm going to do the reconciliation. Fetch. Now I need to have one important information in front of me apart from ADDA books. That is my actual bank statement, which I am going to which I would have downloaded from the net banking, or I would have got it from the bank, or have a physical copy, whatever it is. You need to have the actual bank statement in front of you when you're on this page. Now if you see, there are as soon as you fetch transaction for a period, you get two important information here right below that. One is that you have a bank balances. You can see here, this is your bank balance as on so and so date, and then this is your book balance as on so and so date. Now you need to ensure okay, everything is perfect. Now for example, you're doing January, then this balance, you need to always ensure at what date this balance is matching with your bank statement. And then following dates, you need to do reconciliation. Okay. Now let's go right below that. Now all the transaction I've got, popped up here. Now it has, transactions, and then it has, couple of information. Let me explain you that. One is that, you have a transaction, you have all the inflow. These are your inflow, and then these are your outflows. These are 490, 195, 80, 36, 12,800. These are your outflows, and these are your inflows, as the header says. Now you need to open your bank statement and see for this transaction, 10,917. Open your bank and look for this 10,917, and this posted on 6th Jan. Since it is a test account, we have put instrument number as an hash, but in the actual account, you would see the proper transaction number. One is the bank, the check number that you have taken from the member, or the bank reference number should be reflected in the instrument number. It cannot be NA or hash. It should always be a check number or the bank reference number. Keep that in mind. Since it's a test instance, we use just for NA, but however, in the real account, you should always ensure these are not NA, these are actual check numbers or the bank reference numbers. Now check the amount and see the bank reference number and then the amount. Whether if all these three things, the mandatory field is the amount and the reference number. If these two things are matching with your bank statement, see on what date this transaction is reflecting in your bank. Put that date here. Let's assume, on 6th, I've received a check. However, this has been submitted to the bank. It had got realized in the bank after 2 to 3 days. Maybe on 9th, it got realized in the bank. I've received on 6th, but it got realized in the bank on 9th. Then you have to put the date which is there on your bank statement, which is 9th. Check this box that reconcile. Do this activity for all the transaction. Open up a bank statement, check all the transaction, check this box, put the date that is reflecting on the bank statement. Do this for all the transaction of that month and go to the bottom of the page and save it. As soon as you save, a couple of changes is going to take place here. One is the important change is that your bank balance will change. Your inflow will come in, your outflow will come in. You should always focus this reconciled closing balance on 24th. After doing the reconciliation, this 2754,346 should show or should match with your actual bank statement. If it is matching, you have done the reconciliation accurately. If it is not matching, either there are certain transactions in the bank statement which is not posted here. in the books, ADDA books. So you need to bring in those transactions in the ADDA books and then reconcile it. Ensure this figure matches with your bank statement. If it is matching, then your performed BRS, accurately, and the balances are matching. Ensure this is done perfectly. And second thing is that petty cash, similar way you will have to do for other HDFC bank, any other banks. Follow the same method that I've explained you now, and do the reconciliation. You should always ensure this balance is matching after the reconciliation is done. If it is not done, verify with your bank and ADDA books day wise and see where the difference, make the necessary correction and reconcile it. Now let's assume the other example is that instead of 917 in the bank statement, it shows 10,920 instead of 917. There's an error, right? Now you need to correct it. If you want to correct it, you should know the root of this transaction, where exactly this is coming, where I can see it, right? Because you can't do the corrections here. It's just that you do an entry somewhere and it comes here, right? You need to understand the root of it and then go to the root of it and then correct it and then come here, do the reconciliation. How do you find the root of it? Very simple. See this receipt numbers. If it is flat number, which means if you're seeing a flat number, then it will be under income tracker member income. Let's see, 393, receipt number 393, flat number bungalow apartment 101, amount 1097. How do you find this? Very simple. Go to member income. These are members, flat numbers. Wherever you see flat numbers, those are members. In case if you're seeing, on the inflow, there's a party name instead of flat number. There's a party name. Then it's going to be a non-member income. You need to check in the non-member income page. Let's see, now it's bungalow apartment 101 and the receipt number is 393. This is the receipt that needs to be corrected because bank statement shows 10,920, but in the books, we made a mistake of posting 10,917. How do we correct it? Very simple. How do we go here? Go to income tracker, member income. On your left hand panel, you can see next to the dashboard, there's a module called income tracker. I've just, detailed it down and then I could see the sub module of it. I go to the third sub module, member income. I open one more, tab on the same screen and then I go to member income. Now I go to bungalow apartment. This is the category. This is what it was shown here. Like if you see bungalow apartment, this is the block and this is the unit number. And I go to the bungalow apartment. This is the bungalow apartment and the unit number is 101. And the receipt number, if you see, it was 393, right? If I'm not wrong, it was 393. Now, if you see, this is the 393 is the receipt number. Now you just have to click on action, reverse this transaction and repost. And then go to bank and cash, reconcile it, right? Simple. Now, if you go scroll down to the bottom, there are a few outflows are there. 490, for example, if you see, here you don't see unit numbers. These are parties, auditor, and then NAP security, and then Jagdish facility. These are the service providers, right? This is an expenses outflow. Where do you find this? Very simple. Go to your expense tracker, which is the second module after the, next to the dashboard. If you see dashboard, income tracker, next to the income tracker, you see expense tracker. Go to expense tracker, and then, the third sub module of it, click on it by vendor, open a new tab, and you can see auditor INC, right? I go here and I see auditor INC. This is the auditor INC. Then I view it. Then this is the 490 is the transaction and the voucher number is 7. You can see those information here. The voucher number is 7, auditor INC, right? Very simple. 490 is the value and 89009 is the check number that they have used. 89009. This is where you just reverse it, make the necessary correction if then the correction has to be done, and do the reconciliation. Let's assume instead of this entry, for example, this entry 490 check was issued via HDFC Bank or HDFC Bank, but it's reflecting the State Bank. How do I move from State Bank of India to HDFC Bank? Very simple. Go here, click on edit, and then you can make the necessary changes. From a state bank by mistake, you have I know put State Bank, but it should be in HDFC Bank. Then click on HDFC Bank and save changes. So these are a couple of important things that you need to aware while you do the reconciliation. Okay, hope that was helpful. Now the third important thing is that there are multiple filters are given. Very important. You need to understand why it has given, right. One of the important things that you need to understand here is that the reconcile transaction will show you all the reconcile transaction without non-reconcile transactions. It will have only reconcile transaction. The book transactions will show you whatever entered in the book. All transaction will show you reconciled plus non-reconciled items. The non-reconciled transaction will show the transaction has come in your book, but which is not shown in your bank. So those transactions will reflect in the non-reconciled transactions. All reverse transaction, in case if you have reversed certain receipts, then those will show in the reversed transaction category. Hope this is very clear, and ensure you perform BRS and match the bank balance with book accurately, so that this is a very very important task when it comes to finance, be it any company. This is very very important task. So you need to ensure these balances are matching, so that you can identify is there any mistakes or error where we should check or not submitted. You can track a lot of valuable information if you do the reconciliation perfectly on ADDA. So please ensure, take this on a serious note. This is a very very important module that you should be using every once in a week. I suggest once in a week do the reconciliation, match the balance with your books. The fourth submodule that we have under bank and cash is taxes. Very important, right? So we have two types of taxes. One is that TDS, the other one is the GST. You can also see a service tax and Swachh Bharat Krishi Kalyan. These were the pre-GST era. We have these steps because in case those transactions are there, then you should have it. Hence, it is there here, but you don't really have to look into it now. You should focus on the two taxes. One is TDS and the state GST. How it's going to help you? Just fetch the transaction, choose TDS and fetch transactions. As soon as you fetch, you can see your payables on the credit side, and there is a accounting entry, a payment entry has happened here, right? Very simple. Now I'll show you. Let me void this, and then I'll show you the how do you do this payment entry and where these entries are coming in, right? Now let me void this entry and repost it again so that you understand the process, how it has to be posted. Now I have voided it. If you see these transactions, you need to understand the root of this transaction, where these transactions are coming. These are payables. That means you have collected from someone and then you're going to remit to the government. From whom you are collected? Very simple. These are the subledgers. From these are the parties whom you have deducted TDS at the time of creating an invoice, or at the time of payment you have deducted TDS, and these are the parties 358, G solution, NPS. And where these parties? Very simple. Now we have to go to, these are outflows, right? Your outflows always comes under expense tracker. These are expenses. Go to expense tracker again, by vendor. Expense tracker by vendor. We have already opened up here. These are your parties for whom at the time of payment you deduct TDS of 1%, 2%, 10%, and then you make the payment. Those 1%, 2%, whatever deduction you have done, that will show up here. Okay, let's assume one of the party, let's assume auditor. You're supposed to deduct some TDS, but at the time of creating an invoice, you forgot to deduct the TDS. How do we do it? Two steps. One is that you can go here and reverse these, invoice, and then you recreate the invoice with TDS, TDS value and all those stuff. The second step is that you don't really have to reverse the transactions. Go here and go to the bank and cash taxes. There are two features available. One is enter TDS payable and enter TDS remitted. Click on enter TDS payable. fill in the amount that you forgot to deduct TDS. For example, let's assume, I go to, I forgot to deduct TDS of 100 rupees for audit INC, and then I say that, TDS deducted for this party. Okay. And I'll put the date and I'll post amount. So two things happens over here. If you can see this, here a transactions have come in. This transaction has come in now. Auditor INC 100 rupees, day 24th Jan 2024. If you observe, we have posted this for a vendor, right? Auditor INC. Now you have to go to this vendor ledger. There also you can see this entry, right? 100 rupees, right? Now next time when you create invoice for this party, now for example, I'll just show you this. Now I go to this party, and then next time I'm going to create an invoice of invoice number, and then I'll create an invoice for 10,000, and I'm supposed to deduct or I'm 1,000 rupees. I'm supposed to deduct a 10% TDS. So now this TDS you need not to show because you already deducted a TDS, right? So you already deducted a TDS over there. In case, on this invoice, if you have already deducted a TDS under bank and cash, you don't have to show the TDS deducted here. You just have to show, you don't really have to show this TDS, make it 0 and, post it. And you have posted 1,000 rupees, but however, you have to deduct TDS of, 100 rupees, right? Here, if you see, I'm supposed to deduct 100 rupees TDS for 1,000, but I forgot. Now that's why, since I forgot, I have two options. Either I can reverse and repost, create a proper invoice with TDS deduction. Since I forgot to deduct TDS, what I did is that I went to bank and cash, enter TDS payable. I've chosen the party and deducted the TDS. Now what needs to be done is very simple. You have to go to this party ledger, click on auditor, and then allocate this 100 rupees to this 1,000. Then automatically your payable will come down to 900 rupees, right? Make it 100 rupees here and post amount. That simple is it. That simple it is. If you see now, it become 900. It was 1,000 rupees. Now this auditor was 1,000 rupees, 900. I have allocated the TDS. In case if you forgot, follow this method. Either reverse and repost with the correct value, or if you forgot and you can do without reversing it, then go to taxes and enter TDS payable against the party and allocate the TDS to the invoices. Hope this functionality is clear. Now let's go to enter TDS remittent. Now all of the TDSs which we have deducted for the parties have come here. Choose all. For example, let's assume I am going to pay this amount to the government today, and 5,354. I need to pass an accounting entry here, right? Now I'm going to issue a check to the bank on this, TDS. TDS remitted, TDS paid. So via State Bank of India, via this check, I pass this entry. Now if you see earlier, this 5,354 was the payable. Now I have paid it. My payable is 0 now. I've already passed an accounting entry. This is just an accounting entry. It will not hit your bank. You should submit the check to the bank. You should go physically visit the bank and submit the check. This is an accounting entry after you submit the check, or before you submit the check, you can pass the accounting entry here. So all the TDS deductions comes over here. Will give you a complete picture how much TDS deducted, how much you paid, and all those information. Right? You can export to Excel. In case any mistakes, you can void it and correct it. All those is possible. Now let's go to state GST. So state GST, central GST, integrated GST. Under GST, we have three categories: state, central, integrated. Now this state GST, for example, again, we have three tab under state GST. One is state GST, which is a control account for input state GST and output state GST, right? What do you mean by input state GST? The amount that you pay to the vendor, right, on behalf of a government, that is called input GST. You have not paid to the government, but you have paid to the government. You have not directly paid to the government, but you have indirectly paid to the government. You're paid to vendor, and vendor is going to remit it to the government. That is called input state GST. What is output state GST? Whatever you collect on your incomes, either be your owners or non-members, rentals and all this stuff, those comes under output state GST. Now you need to pay to the government the final amount between output minus input. You should remit the amount to the government. So for that purpose, we have this clear distinguish for each state GST, central GST, integrated GST. You can see input, output, and control account. Right? State GST is a control account. Input state GST is what you paid to the vendor. Output state GST is what you collected from your members and the rentals. Right? Now click on input state GST, and if you see, you have so much of amount you've collected, right? You have so much of amount you've collected. Now you need to move this amount to control account. Similar way, output state, you already paid this amount, move to the control account. Similarly, output state GST, I fetch. You also have so much of collect, you have so much of amount collected by the members and the rentals. Then you need to again move this amount to the control account. Then what will happen? Your control account will have input, output, and the final payable value. That easy it is. Okay, how do you do it? You just have to pass a journal entry. Scroll down to the bottom of the page. We have also given you a feature here, pass J's GST account. Right, now click on this. This will take you to the general ledger journal entry. Now in case if you want to move your input to the state GST control account, you need to pass this entry. Type input state GST. Since your input is a debit side, when you are giving it to the vendor, now if you want to move to the control account, you just have to credit it. Let's assume 100 rupees, and you're moving this amount to the control account, which is stage 100. Okay, simple. And put the remark, moving it to the state GST control account. Simple. Similarly, output also you need to move to the control account. Now change the ledger to output state GST. Now here you need to debit it because initially it becomes credit. Now you need to debit it. So again moving to control account. Put the journal note as moving to control account, and then submit it. After these two entries are passed, go to bank and cash, taxes, state GST, and see under the state GST control account whether those two entries are showing up in the debit and credit and the final payable value. And then this is the amount that you're going to remit to the government. Hope it's very clear. Same method you need to use for central GST and the integrated GST. Follow the same method, move it to control account, and you will get the final payable amount, and then that you remit to the government. Same, after remitting to the government, what you need to do is you need to make a payment entry, right? How do you do that payment entry? Simple, go to general ledger, journal entry. Now you are paid, state GST and central GST has been paid to the government, and you want to pass an accounting entry, right? You need to pass an accounting entry. Very simple, choose state GST because that's where the control account you have passed, and then central GST. These are the control account. You have paid 100 rupees to the government. So 200 rupees you paid for state GST, central GST, and choose bank. Choose bank. Let's assume from State Bank of India you have, and pass paid to GST. Okay, and then in case you have a reference number, challan number, or any paid acknowledgement number, you can mention it over submit. As soon as you do this, your GST payment entry also happens, and that should show up in the bank and cash tax ledger under state GST. This should become, your control account should become zero after passing the payment entry. Hope this is clear to you. Now next, let's go to the next submodule under that bank and cash, fixed deposit. Now fixed deposit, it's a very, very beautiful feature that we have under bank and cash. Every society typically maintains FDs, right? And you want to have a track of it. If it is 1 or 2, fine. But if you have more than 5, 10, or 15, and you want to have a track of it, and you don't want to log into bank every time and check how much FDs I have, what is the rate of interest, and all those stuff, you don't really have to worry about it. What you need to simply do is that you should come here, create FDs under bank and cash fixed deposit, create FDs. Put the GL number, and which is there, already in the chart of accounts, FD numbers, and create it. After creating it, if you want to add more information, whatever you have created will show up here. Go to the right end of it, click on edit, and input all other information which is related to the FD: rate of interest, principal value, simple interest, whether it's a compounding interest or quarterly, monthly, renewal, do not renew, everything. Ensure that every information of this FD is captured here. After you capture, everything will show up here. And this module will give you a complete picture how many activities you have, rate of interest, what is the maturity amount, when it's going to mature, after matured, and if you want to do an accounting entry, bank to FD, transfer from bank to FD, you can use this. It's again an entry. Click on it and follow this and pass it. Similar way, remit FD to bank, click on this hyperlink, make the entry, interest to bank, click the hyperlink and make to entry, right? And very, very important module, and make use of this fully, so that you don't really have to manually check or log into your bank and see how many FDs you have and all those stuff. If in case FD is matured and closed, you can move those FDs to archive. Just click on, you can see a tab called archive here on top. And how do you do that? You just have to click on this edit, and there's a checkbox here. Click on archive and save. Then it moves to archive fixed deposits. Hope it is clear to you now. Now let's see the last feature of bank and cash: reports. Very valuable reports are available over here. For example, the first report that you have here is the ADDA payment gateway NEFT transactions. So since it is a test instance, I will not be able to show this report to you, but if you are using in your real account, this will give you the breakup of ADDA has a functionality where residents can log into the ADDA app and make the payment. It goes via ADDA app, right? Your payment gateway is integrated, bank account is integrated, automatically the payment happens via ADDA app. In a day, let's assume 10 residents are paid and you have 10,000 rupees each. In your bank statement, if you open, you will have 1 lakh rupees. So if you want to know the breakup of this 1 lakh, then come to this ADDA bank and cash report, fetch this report to ADDA payment gateway transaction. This will give you the breakup for the 1 lakh. Very, very valuable, important report for reconciliation. Keep that in mind. Okay. The second is cash flow reports. These are receipts and payment reports, right? So if you want to fetch these reports, then you need to perform bank reconciliation. If you are not performing bank reconciliation, then this report will not give you any information. These cash flow reports, you have multiple reports, month, quarter, and then periodic, whatever period you want, you can fetch that also. Flexibility is given. But if you want to see the data, an accurate data on these reports, then you need to perform bank reconciliation. Only then you will be able to see the receipts and payment information on these reports, right? So these reports, if you want to see all the figures, for example, December, I did not perform the reconciliation. You're not able to see the proper value, but proper figures. But if you are performing bank reconciliation, then this report will show you the final cash balance as according to your bank statement. So this will give you a final figure. And this will, you can share this with MCs, finance team and committees. Very, very important. So ensure your reconciliation is done so that you can pull out this report and see the numbers that is showing there, and you don't really have to spend too much of time creating manually and submitting it to the finance committee or management. If you do BRS perfectly on ADDA, you don't really have to spend too much of time creating these receipts and payments or cash flow reports. Everything is available in a click. Okay. And then the other couple of reports, FD expired next month, your BRS bank reconciliation report, TDS reports, and then so on. Hope you understand how to use bank and cash module effectively, and then get the complete benefit out of this module. Thank you. We will see you in the upcoming sessions.